Sounds badass, bro. What is that? See what says the W's, hits desk, so text appears. Did you go over the notes?
I would have been like that on your ass.
Welcome back, Ronin fam, to another episode of Tech Talk with Ronin Media. If you haven't joined us before, welcome. I'm Pastor John. This is my boy,
Pastor Dave.
and we encourage you to check out Tech Talk numero uno, deciding what cameras to buy. All right, Dave, so fill us in on what we're gonna talk about today.
Absolutely, thank you for that intro. Okay, so on this episode, we're talking about editing basics. So in order to make any sick edit, you really need to start off with a strong foundation. One of the things that we put a lot of thought into here at Ronin Media is pre-production. Now that comes with planning your edit, planning your shots, planning everything, and you have a timeline in your head before you even touch your computer. So I want to ask you, Pastor John, what are some pre-production values that you use in the editing process?
Awesome, good question, Dave. So like he was saying, it's really good to have a plan, a plan before the action. With that being said, let's dive into the W's. All right, guys, so the W's are who, what, when, and where.
Yes.
Who is your subject or subjects? You can have models, you can have, hell, even products. I mean,
how would you say that they're different? Like, what would you say the difference is between shooting a model and maybe shooting a product?
the difference can be very large. In fact, say for example, if you're doing photography or videography, I mean, your lighting will differ a bit more.
What about like telling them what to do? Because I know, well, when it comes to like with food and stuff, it's easier for us to like move things around the plate or set things up a certain way.
Yeah, it's more along the lines of product photography. Knowing how to manage your subjects is very crucial to a shoot and to the editing process. Why? When you go back to your editing software, it's going to just be a lot easier for you to organize your timeline and fit clips the way you want them to fit.
I think that practice that we do a lot here is we really like our subjects to feel comfortable with us. Because the more comfortable and laid back they are, like the easier it is to work with them, and they just feel like it's just a better experience for all of us, for them, and then they're a lot happier with the end product.
Yeah, of course. You want to make the environment very, very calm, very collective, and yes, we want to make everyone feel comfortable. So our next W on the list is going to be what.
Yes, what gear you're using or knowing what gear you're going to use on a shoot is very important. So for example, if you're going to be in an open setting and you're going to be shooting a person and you need them to move in different ways and strike different poses, and you have to be far away from them because of the lens that you're using, maybe it's hard to communicate. So you have to keep that in mind. If you're shooting food and you have a lens that requires you to be right on the food, like you might be so close that you get your lens dirty and then you have to stop, and that slows down production, that slows down your shoot. So I think it is always imperative that you know what gear you're going to be using and make sure it fits with the type of video shoot that you're doing.
Awesome, so let's move on to the next W on our list, which would be when. When is the time of day you would be shooting, whether it be day or night. Usually we have two very good times of days to shoot, which would be dusk and dawn. Those would be referred to as golden hours.
So I think golden hours are really good for when you're shooting outside. If you're doing any outdoor videography or photography, you're really going to want to stick to that. It gives you that perfect lighting for your subject. It gives them shadows in all the right places.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, moving on is the where. Where is pretty important because I think some things that we've run into is like when we're shooting at gyms, for example, in fitness, or even when we're shooting, like I know we've done some work at downtown, in the downtown area, like at nightclubs and stuff like that. You got to be careful. You got to know your surroundings, know if the people are going to be comfortable with you filming, make sure that there's a disclosure, maybe that, hey, these guys are going to be filming. So things like that can be a little bit cumbersome. Make sure to address those or just be mindful of them. What would you say is something else that like you would address when it comes to the where?
Of course, I mean, I would say it also correlates with your when. I mean, say for example, it's a large space and it has a lot of natural light coming in. You have to be aware of the time of day you shoot, you know, because I mean, say if it's midday as well, you're gonna have a lot of natural light coming in and it's really gonna overexpose your subjects.
Yeah. Like for a house.
For a house example, if you're doing real estate, you have to make sure it's either a cloudy day. Why? Because it's blocking the sun rays, or it's later on during the day at sunset, which is a golden hour. Also, it's really good just to scout the area you're gonna shoot in a day before. Yeah, do your research and make sure that's the place you want to select. All right, guys, so those are the 4 W's: who, what, when, and where. What we're gonna talk about next is the story, developing your vision. And with that, I'm gonna pass it to Pastor Dave.
All right, guys. So story is extremely important when it comes to editing, because at the end of the day, with any edit, you're really trying to tell a story. Every great story has 3 major acts. You're talking about your setup, your conflict, and then your resolution. Yeah. So we're gonna be using our Santa Maria girls basketball video as an example for you guys. So it'll be playing here as you see us speak. But yeah, when we do the setup, we set the tone. We set the tone for the video. We let the audience know this is what it's gonna be about, and this is what you guys are gonna be, like what you're gonna be looking at throughout the whole video.
All right, so in the setup we have right here, the Santa Maria girls are basically huddling up. They're getting ready for their big game. We also have footage of their practice, so they're basically preparing for that big game. You know what I mean? That we're setting it up for something big, something epic.
So then the next act obviously is your conflict. And when you're setting up a conflict, I mean, that's where you really see your protagonists or the people that are part of the video really like come up with an issue, something that they have to overcome. And so in the Santa Maria video, we really show that through like they're in the heat of the game and one of them gets knocked down and she's like, oh man. And so you can see that here. And then right after is where we set up that resolution, you know. We're gonna pause. And so look, right here, this shot right here is what set up that resolution. They helped one another get up and like to overcome what they were facing, to overcome the hardness of the game and the fact that, I mean, sometimes you're gonna get knocked down. We really wanted to portray that, and so this scene right here, I think both of us felt that was probably one of the best ways to show that. Exactly. And so, I mean, when it comes to your story, that was just that was what it was. That's we thought of that a lot, like before we even shot, and then when we got there, we talked to the girls' basketball team. We said, hey, this is what we had in mind, and it's just a great example of how planning and communicating with anybody that you're shooting can really help your edit go a long way, because then that's the kind of stuff that people remember. And when you're doing video, that's what you want. You want to create stuff that people remember and talk about.
All right, Pastor Dave, let's go ahead and give a rundown of what we talked about with Santa Maria as an example. So we have your who. We have the Santa Maria Lady Cougars varsity team. That's her subjects. What? Our gear we basically used everything in our arsenal, right?
We used our wide lens to show the grandness of the court, the basketball court.
I know Dave was on the 2470 most of the time.
Yeah.
I was on the 1635, and I was also in between that one and our 85mm lens.
To really get that close-ups, those close-up shots.
Yeah. Then we have when, our time of day. I mean, it was in a gym, so I mean, the time of day didn't really affect our location. So I mean, that's where our location was. We have lighting as well, and obviously gym's location.
Yeah.
And like we said, that really sets up our story. Our story is very important to your editing process. When you're piecing your clips together, you know exactly what goes where.
What goes where, exactly. I mean, going more into that, just so you guys won't feel like, oh, well, these guys they're talking about editing and they just like left us out completely. So you guys can get a notion for the next video that we're gonna be talking about is we're gonna go over the software we use. So right now we currently use Adobe After Effects and Adobe Premiere Pro. Those are the 2 softwares that we use to edit. And I mean, they give you a multitude of tips and tricks and tools to go ahead and create a story. You got, I mean, color, when it comes down to color correction, transitions, color grading, sound effects, all that stuff. So we'll go into a lot more depth when we do that video for you guys. But for now, I mean, we felt that it was really important that you really understood pre-production and how it can affect the whole editing process. All right, guys, so that wraps up everything for today. We talked about the W's, we talked about story, we talked about developing your vision to make your edit as sick as possible. So We do love that you guys loved the first video. I mean, we're very thankful for the overwhelming amount of support that we got from you guys, and we want to know what more you guys want to see. So if you have any specific questions about cameras, about software, anything,
please ask.
Yeah, please ask. Let us know in the comments. Let us know on any of our social media platforms. We're here for you guys. We're here to help you all learn and get better at what it is that you want to do. So thank you all again so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Shout out Lady Cougars, you guys are awesome. So the W's are who, what, when. So the W's are who, what, and when. I got the giggle.